Hello, everybody, and welcome. Today is Tuesday, June 23rd, 2020, and this is your Corporate Cults Review live stream. In this live stream, we are going to go over Chapter 10 of the book Corporate Cults that we have been reviewing since last year. We are rounding this book out. We only have 2 more chapters to go after this one, chapters 11 and 12, and we will be finished. So if you have ideas for other books that we should read in the future, do drop those in the chat and in the comment section down below. Welcome to everybody. As you fill into the room, we will get started shortly. While we're waiting for the room to fill up, I would like to go ahead and shout out my patrons. Thank you all so much for hanging in there with me. Let me hide my message so we can see all the initials. Thanks for hanging in there with me, especially through these tough times. I appreciate it so much. Thanks to anyone who's ever been a patron and had to leave for one reason or another. I appreciate your support anyway. If you're interested in becoming a patron, you can see the link there on your screen, and it is also in your description box on this video. Hi, everybody, and welcome. Welcome to the live stream. We will get started shortly. Also, while we wait, I do still have a partnership with a company called BetterHelp. They provide a variety of online therapy services, including private counseling one-on-one with a therapist of your choice. If you're interested, you can follow that link there on your screen. That link will also be in the description box for you. You can receive 10% off of your membership as a result of following this link. And if you do sign up, you are supporting the channel. So I do thank you so much in advance for your support. Welcome to everyone as you fill into the room. We are continuing on our review of Corporate Cults. We are now on Chapter 10, finally, which is all about independence. And it's very weird because I didn't plan this, but it seems like all the chapters seem to line up in time just right to something that we're going through in society currently. So I think that's interesting. This show is all about independence. Welcome to everyone. We'll get started in just a moment. Hello to everybody in the chat. Welcome. We're almost finished with this book. So if you have any recommendations for a good book you think we should do another review series on, let me know, and we will do that. All right, why don't we go ahead and jump right into it. Welcome, everyone. Tonight's topic, Corporate Cults Review, Chapter 10, Independence. Let's get into the content. So for anyone who might just be joining for the first time, we have been reviewing this book since last year, but I told you guys it was going to take us a long time to get through this content. We've been reviewing this book since last year. We're almost finished. This is the book cover. It is somewhat hard to find because I don't think that many were in print at the time that we started reviewing this book. So I think all the copies that were out there have been purchased, but they may have replenished them at this point. So you can go look for that book. This was published in the year 2000. So it's just a wee bit prophetic, this book. And I don't know that the author knew that it would be, but it's turned out to be quite prophetic. And we've really enjoyed diving into this content and picking it apart. So this is the book cover. And as with every stream that I do on this book, I always like to reset the purpose. The purpose of us doing all of this is to redefine and reshape working and corporate culture, to be a place where people can earn an honest living, free of harassment and mental duress, and where individuals can be treated as autonomous, freestanding adults with respect to relevant rules. Okay, that's kind of our overall purpose, because if you don't ever talk about something, it has the ability to just keep going on and on as is, with no changes ever being applied to it. Now, what's interesting is during the course of this entire series, the whole world has kind of changed as a result of, I have to say, the situation to keep the algorithm happy. The situation that shut down the whole world back in March up until now still really has really kind of gotten people thinking differently about work and what's important and things of that nature. So, like I do, or like I have done with the other streams, I want to set a little bit of real life context and share this article with you really quick before we get into the context, which is, or the content, which is that of chapter 10, Independence. Hey, Ronald, thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate it so much. I love you too. Welcome. Welcome. I see one book suggestion says Codependent No More. Hi there. Welcome. All right, let me switch screens very briefly so I can pull up this article for you. Thank you for joining me. We're almost done with this book, you guys. Can you believe it? I'm so happy. This will be the first one I finished. I've started a couple, no, not a couple. Or did I? Yeah, I did start. I've started two and did not finish them. So this will be the first one that we finish together, and I'm very excited. Welcome. We're going to look at this article really quick. And you guys have to forgive me because I feel like I've shown you this one before. And I tried to do like a brief search to see if I had brought this one up before. I don't think I have. At least I haven't done it in this series. So if I have shared this with you before somewhere else, I apologize, but I feel like this might be the first time I've shown you this article. Okay. So, by the way, how was the sound? Is it choppy? Is it breaking up? Let me know. Otherwise, we'll press forward. So this article was actually published a couple of weeks ago. It says, imagining a better life after the situation. This crisis is revealing the limits of America's religious devotion to work and showing us that a more fulfilling future is possible. Okay. And if you'll remember when this whole thing started, when I first started talking about it, I was like, this is great. People are home with their children and their families and their pets. You know, we have an opportunity here to really grab this moment and say, what have we been doing? You know, because I was kind of harping about just work-life balance in general, you know, and workplace culture long before the situation hit. So this was finally our opportunity. And I feel like it passed so many people by. So many. As soon as the propaganda started up about, oh, this is not supposed to be it, and, you know, let us out, give us free, people forgot this part. Like they totally overlooked that you just had an opportunity to have a slice of your life back and you didn't want it. So what are you telling the universe? Anyway, we won't go there. Maybe I'll save that for a deeper PTE. Let's read this article. It says, last week, I posed an admittedly taboo question to my followers on Twitter. Let me see if there's a date on here to make it more relevant. Give me just 1 second. We're not going to read this whole thing. I hate it when they don't date articles, man. I don't get it. Why would you not date your work? So people can know. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sitting here talking all this trash. It's dated right at the top. So this was written on April 1st, 2020. So I apologize. The date is there. Okay. So that should give you some context. So last week, I posed an admittedly taboo question to my followers on Twitter. Is anyone enjoying this? Any parents in particular? Are there any ways your life is better in this situation? I was surprised by the response from more than 30 workers around the country and across the world. Perhaps enjoy was the wrong word, they fairly noted, but they did find something positive in their new reality. I do not enjoy the forest, but I love my little trees. Others use the words lovely and wonderful. They're not commuting. They're spending more time with their kids. They're getting more exercise. And I'm adding this one in there. They're also cooking more. A lot of people have started cooking more for many reasons. One, a lot of restaurants and things for a brief time were either closed or, you know, had some really weird restrictions. So food wasn't quite as accessible. A lot of people have started cooking more because they're freaked out and weirded out. And their thought process now is, well, with all this going on, how do I know the people preparing my food, you know, down the street and across the bridge are practicing health and safety standards? How do I know people aren't in the kitchen coughing? You see what I mean? And I think I'm good. I think I'll make my own food at home. So there's a variety of reasons. Other people just have the time to try new recipes and things. So anyway, I'm adding all that in. Cooking. People started cooking more as well. The spread of the novel situation has utterly changed work in America. Most important, the situation has put millions out of a job. Untold millions are taking pay cuts or juggling childcare and homeschooling or enduring immense pressure to continue low-wage work in spite of the risks. Delivery drivers, warehouse stockers, pharmacy assistants, supermarket cashiers, and others are being worked to the bone to sustain our mass self-isolation. There is no silver lining in the situation for these Americans. But for some Americans, thanks in part to the workers above, conditions are actually better than they were before. There is less pressure and more flexibility. Once the situation subsides and we grieve everyone and everything we have lost, we should not go back to our normal way of working. We need to preserve the best parts of our new work experience and make them accessible to all, especially those who are being hit the hardest by the crisis. One father of 3 young children who works for a nonprofit in the DC area told me that working from home has allowed for a more equitable split of domestic labor with his wife, who is also working from home. I don't have 2.5 hours of daily commute anymore. She doesn't have to cook and entertain the kids at the same time, he said. Since he's always home now, he cooks. They block out time to be with their children, or as they did recently, play guitar in front of the neighbors' houses so their kids could dance and sing along. Let's see how much longer this is. Okay, I'm actually not going to read the rest of this because I want to get into our other content. But why don't we read the last couple paragraphs here? It will take policy changes, of course, including mandatory paid time off, higher wage floors, universal health care, and greater recognition of the right to organize. But these alone will not be enough to make post-pandemic working life more humane for all. We will also need to change the moral status of work to displace it as our highest duty. That will require a revolution ultimately more radical than anything being proposed in American politics today. But it will necessarily happen more subtly over time, for it requires not merely reforming our society, but shifting the big ideas and small habits that shape our roles in it. The revolution may already be underway right now, even as we fear for each other's lives. One woman who is newly working from home told me her household is mayhem now, but she still managed to find a moment that would have been impossible a few weeks ago. I just lay on a blanket in the backyard with my 3-year-old, naming what shapes we saw in the clouds, she said. It was marvelous. So I have not linked this article yet in the description, but I will do that once the show is over, okay? But you got the gist. The first couple of paragraphs and the last were essentially saying that many people have found and reclaimed the life that they had completely forgotten existed because they had given their whole life over to work. They become slaves to their organization, okay? So that's kind of been the whole entire point of this whole entire series. And in many ways, the point of the channel as well, because it's not so much that work consumed so much of their life as when they try to reclaim their life back, it becomes a problem because many workplaces have become cults. So you are not allowed to show individuality or express yourself in a way that identifies you as different from the cult. That is the new problem. I don't think a lot of people have a problem with necessarily working hard if that's what the job calls for. You see what I mean? If that's just the nature of the work. The problem that we're having is having to now also sign over our soul as part of the working contract. That's what we're trying to eradicate. And especially during these times now, we're having all these discussions about inequality and things like that. This is part of how you eradicate that. You strip this layer of cultedness from the work experience, and it becomes far more objective versus subjective. Okay. Meaning we're evaluating you off of your performance on the things that we hired you for and nothing else. You know what I mean? So I'm very passionate about this, if you guys can't tell. If you don't know by now, I'm very passionate about this. I am. So why don't we go ahead and jump into our content? I'm just going to glance at the comments really quick. Hello, everybody. Wow. Someone lost 48 pounds and your husband 70, just being on lockdown. You know what else has happened? A lot of people are saying that they've saved money. And I've seen people say that they didn't realize how much money they were actually spending on a day-to-day basis, just in the process of going to work. Listen, I'm getting ahead of myself. This is after show stuff, but going to work, like those of you who actually have to leave your house and report to a building, report somewhere, actually costs money. So the act of going to work, you have like another full-time job. You don't even realize it though. But your second full-time job is supporting the act of going to work. So what I mean by that is, I assume you go to work with clothing on, correct? So that clothing has to be washed occasionally, right? Eventually that clothing wears out. You have to get new clothing, right? So there's part of your job duties in supporting work. Then everybody, male or female, has to groom themselves in some way. So that's haircuts, barbershops, salons, whatever. For the ladies who get their nails done, nails, whatever. For the ladies who wear makeup, and gentlemen, makeup. You see what I mean? So hair, it's like a full wardrobing. Hair, makeup, nails, clothes. You got to get all that taken care of. Oh, but wait, there's more. Then there's the food. You have to make decisions about food. Are you going to eat at work every day? Are you going to pack your lunch? You're going to cook at home and bring it? Those are all activities that go towards the one effort, which is going to work. So when you cut out the actual act of going, you save time, money, energy, so much. Like, I feel like this is one of my major theses. And it's like you get a raise when you don't actually have to go every day. And people are discovering that. And it's scaring these narcissistic employers to death, which is what makes this particular chapter of our series so poignant and so timely and so relevant. Chapter 10 is all about independence. Welcome to everybody. All right, let's keep going. And this starts on page 176 in the book. So it says, her ability to quit her job indicated a great deal of independence from organizational life, page 177. So I'm starting off with that quote because I thought, it says her, but it could be his or her ability to quit their job indicates a great deal of independence from organizational life. Now, those of you who have been with me for a long time know that I will quit a job. Like, it's nothing. I've quit very good jobs because to me, excuse me, once I see that I'm not respected in spite of showing respect, that I'm not heard or heard out, once they start to engage in the macro and micro aggressions, and I do everything in the professional adult way to resolve it, and I see that it can't be resolved, I'll quit because I'm not tolerating that long term. You're not going to abuse me. You're not going to bully me. You're not. Now, I will move through all the proper channels first, but once I see that it's a lose-lose situation for me, I'm out. I'll quit a job. I've quit very good jobs, very good jobs. And it speaks a lot to, I believe, my independence as a person, but it has a lot to do with self-respect and dignity also. But the point that he's making with this quote is there are people out there who cannot quit their job. There are people out there who've been on the same job that they had since they got hired back when they were like 18. And here's the thing, there's not necessarily anything wrong with that. If that person is getting trained, if they're getting respected, if they're paid fairly, if they're progressing through the organization in a logical manner that makes sense and kind of moves with time, then they just might have gotten lucky. They got on with a good company young and they stayed until they retired. That's very rare these days. Understand that. But there are people who are simply with the first company that hired them because they are terrified to leave, terrified. And that's kind of what this whole chapter is about. So let's keep going. Page 177 says employees of corporate cults expect to receive money, vacation, status, friends, encouragement, medical benefits, and professional esteem from the corporation. So, in many ways, what they are expecting to receive is everything from the job, everything that we're really supposed to be getting from life. Do you understand? So basically, here's another way to look at it. If this job weren't offering these things, would you still be able to give yourself those things? Or are you still giving yourself those things in spite of the job or not? Whether or not the job is present is the question. Obviously, money is kind of a given, but do you have a side hustle? Do you have a plan B? Do you have a savings account or something? Is this your only source of income? If so, that's really foolish. Really foolish. As you can see, if the past couple of months have taught us nothing, it has taught us that you really shouldn't place your 100% trust in your company, no matter how good they are, because there are companies that are closed right now because they had to close by law. So some of them are hanging on by a thin thread. Others are going out of business because if there's no money coming in, you can't run your business. So that should teach everybody the lesson that I should not rely on this one thing solely, no matter how good it's going. And as a matter of fact, the better it's going, the more money I want you to save. The better it's going, the more I want you to start investing in your side business. Because the better it's going, the higher the likelihood that you believe that this is it and you're going to put all your eggs in this one basket. So I'm here to say the better your job is going, the more I want you to invest in your emergency fund. Okay. But vacation are you getting all your vacations from your job, or are you able to give vacations to yourself? Do you have status outside of work? Do you have friends outside of work? Do you get encouragement from any other place other than your workplace? Medical benefits right now in America is kind of a given. They're attached to our employers. We're trying to detach medical benefits from our employers for this very reason. Think about all the people who had health insurance until their business was forced to close. And then the business is like, hey guys, you didn't do anything wrong. I'm so sorry, but we can't afford to just keep paying you and paying your health insurance. We don't have any money coming in. So they either got cut, let go, or whatever. So now there's a lot of people sitting around with no health insurance because it was attached to their job. You see, it's silly. It's a silly system. Okay. So let's keep going. Corporate cults like the dependents because it binds the employee closer to the organization for financial and emotional support. So what this was talking about in this particular section was the people who can be culted are very, very dependent on their organizations, and corporate cults know this. So what this made me think of are the more vulnerable populations of people, the people who are coming from poverty, or the people who might, I don't even know how to politically correctly say it anymore. People who are not natives of the country, but aren't here illegally, if that makes sense. What in the world? Puppy, why? Come here, give me this. Thank you. People who are not natives, but not necessarily here illegally. They are wide open for this type of behavior from organizations because they know that they're vulnerable, desperate, and dependent. But it's not just them. It's also your everyday average American who they know, this person doesn't really have a lot of job prospects. There's not really a lot of hope for this person's future. So we're going to let them work here and make them feel like this is the best thing that's ever happened to them and the best thing that ever will happen to them. And in that, we can control them to a great deal because they will be afraid to leave because they will be convinced there's nothing else they can ever do. And this is the best thing that could ever possibly happen to them. That's why you often see people accept low wages and you wonder how. That's a simple-minded person. That's the first thing they'll say. Oh, well, if you don't like your low wages, just leave. You don't understand that a lot of those low-wage employees are really subject to a lot of mental abuse. And I'm serious, because they know that they can get away with it because they've convinced this particular individual, you can't do any better than this. Doesn't that sound like an abusive relationship, a domestically abusive one? Hey, you can't do any better than me, baby. Where are you going to go? Who's going to take better care of you than me? I pay all of your bills. All the clothes on your back are because of me. Yeah, remember that tooth that you needed to get fixed? Remember how I got your tooth fixed? Yeah, that was because of me. That apartment you live in, the furniture in it, yeah, that's all because of me. So who's going to set you up like that? Nobody. So, fall in line and accept anything that I give you because you can't do any better than me. Do you understand the problem? Is it starting to become more clear now? So kind of furthering that point, page 178, are employees so dependent on their corporations that they can't find fulfillment elsewhere? And he was kind of asking that question like an open question, but the answer to the question is yes, very many people are so very dependent on their corporations, they cannot find fulfillment elsewhere. And to me, that is the saddest thing ever. To me, that is the mark of a wasted life. And I've shared this on previous streams in this series. To me, I've always been interested in my life. I've always maintained an interest in my life. So whenever I would feel like the company trying to like take me away from my life, I'm like, no, you can't have my whole life. You can't. I will give you 8 hours a day of it, which is a lot actually. And really it's more than 8 when you count what time I woke up, how long it took me to get ready, and the drive over here and the drive back. It's more than 8 hours. So I'm more than invest in you, and I'm allowed to invest in me. And I have always been met with such resistance when they can tell, oh, she's not going to give up her life for us. Such resistance. Okay. So this is on page 178, 179. He said, in the book Halftime, Bob Buford says the people spend the first half of their professional life seeking success, and the enlightened spend the other half seeking significance. So that means that the unenlightened are going to spend their whole professional lives seeking success. They're constantly going to be chasing that. And the one half that does wake up will start to look for significance at some point in their life. They'll start to seek it out and search for it. And you don't want to find that when you are retiring and you look back and you realize, I gave up my entire youth to a company that kind of threatened my life if I ever showed any interest in my own affairs. Low key threaten your life though, not high key. It's a low key threatening your life. I remember when I was a teacher and I was getting ready to quit, the principal said to me, well, you can go on ahead and, you can resign if you want to, but just note if you go to apply to other schools, the principals are going to call me. And I looked at him and said, oh, is that a threat? Are you threatening me? Man, I can't believe I had the balls that I've had throughout the course of my life. Because I was young then. I was like 23 or 24. I was like, oh, is that a threat? Are you threatening me? Wow. And I think I even said to him, I said, don't threaten a young woman who's out here working and building and surviving on her own. Don't do that. Oh, no. Yeah. I stand up to my bullies, man. It doesn't work out in my favor always, meaning I often find myself on Indeed.com looking for other jobs. I do. So I would never encourage you to necessarily follow in my footsteps. But what I do have intact 100% is my dignity. I do. My dignity is intact. I'm like, are you threatening me? Oh, okay. I should have said, call him. Anyway. But I did say, don't threaten a young woman who's out here working trying to build and survive on her own. Don't do that. Because that's what it was. It was a power differential. He was like 20, 30 years older than me. It was my first teaching job. He knew what was going on and how I was being essentially harassed by the administrative staff and some of the students. And he sided with them because those are his flying monkeys. So when I finally got fed up and had enough, he's going to threaten me like, well, you can resign if you want, but just know the other principals are going to call me. I'm like, oh, is that a threat? Anyway, sorry. Moving on, page 178. So it was talking about how he was speaking on this one particular employee in the book and how basically her lifestyle wasn't sustainable. And so the quote is, since the workplace is dependent on her fanatically committed lifestyle, the two are codependent. Okay. So then it says, following Buford's advice, demands a break from corporate cults that honor the workaholic dysfunction that is inherent in so many employees. So when he says fanatically committed, that is the same thing as workaholic dysfunction. Super committed, above and beyond committed, going way above the call of duty. And what he's basically saying is that the organization has to have that in order to survive. So the note that I made to myself was, this is why a lot of businesses folded during our little health crisis here, because they've always been set up to be dependent on fanatically committed people, meaning they never had a normal business plan. Okay. For those of you who've gone on an interview, have you ever heard them say, right now, everything is kind of up in the air, you know, we're restructuring this, restructuring that, but things will level out soon. Things are going to level out soon. What I'm here to tell you is things have never been level with them. It's not like they had a normal season and then they're in peak season and then it's going to go back to normal. It's always been peak is what I'm trying to tell you. So you're not going to get to have a life in these type of companies because they never designed it to be normal. They never designed it to have like a neutral operating zone. It's always been panic mode from day one. And you cannot sustain panic mode because panic mode is always hanging on by a thin thread. And all it takes is a strong wind to break a thin thread. And that's exactly what happened. They're not rooted in any business fundamentals. You know, business fundamentals are frowned upon now. You know, that's, considered like old. And I don't mean like running a business like an old stodgy company. What I mean is there are some things that are timeless throughout business. It doesn't matter what year you start your business, they will remain timeless. And when you buck those principles, your business is destined to collapse. As soon as they stop funding it, as soon as they stop cutting those checks to keep you afloat, it's going to fold because you're not sound. You don't have sound business principles. So the ones that don't are dependent on these workaholic, fanatically committed employees because otherwise it won't work. The company will fold is what I'm trying to tell you. So this is on 179. Also, it says American business honors dysfunction. And I couldn't think of a more brilliant way to summarize it all. American business honors dysfunction. They absolutely do. They honor it and pretty much tell you that right in the interview. They'll say, are you capable of multitasking and handling multiple competing projects and multiple competing timelines and deadlines? You better say yes. If you say no, they're not going to hire you. If you look them in the eye and say, well, sure, I could do that, but I probably would be more effective with just one or two projects to focus on, they're not going to hire you. They're not. What they really need are like 4 different people working on all the projects they have, but they're going to try to get the work of 4 people out of one person. So you have to lie in the interview and say, oh, yes, absolutely. I'm great at multitasking and handling competing deadlines and priorities. And because they just love to hear it, because they're so easily flattered and taken by words, you're going to get the job. And you're going to discover what a disaster it is once you get inside the walls, because nobody ever sat down to kind of really map it out. And that was my other thing. When we were all shut down and everything was pretty much closed for the most part, what a brilliant opportunity to, as a business leader or owner or whatever, say, you know what? We can't really work right now, but you know what we can do? We can plan and strategize and organize for the years to come, because that's the one thing we've never had an opportunity to do. The only time we close are when the business is closed or holidays. And what are we doing on holidays? Celebrating with friends and family. So we never actually take the time to stop and plan and iron out details and get organized and streamline. What an opportunity to streamline we just had as a country, as a world, really. I mean, y'all should have been in those offices cleaning those file cabinets out with your masks on, of course, safety first, cleaning out file cabinets, storage closets. What an excellent opportunity. And most people just passed it right by. I have no respect for the way this country does business. No respect. That's what I would have been doing. Like, okay, no customers. Well, let's clean it from top to bottom. Let's purge it. You know what I mean? Like, let's do the one thing we've never in the history of our country had an opportunity to do. Never. Let's do it. Nope. We honor dysfunction. So kids, for those of you fresh out of high school and college, if you want to get the job, you need to make it seem like you honor dysfunction in every way. Make it seem like you're capable of surviving in a disorganized environment, that you're capable of rules and requests and expectations changing every day. If you can pretend that you're good at that, you'll get the job, babe. Because American business honors dysfunction. And keep in mind, this was written in the year 2000. Let's move on. Same theme. Organizations thrive on dysfunctional workaholics, and they really do, you know, and you can tell. Like, they never ever seem like they've got a grip on all the work ever. You could be there a year, 2 years, and they never seem like they actually have a grasp on all of the work that's going on, because they don't. It's kind of like a very long game of hot potato that spans over the course of some years, and people just play hot potato for years. But the potato never cools off and it never settles down. And that's why they fold. Now, what bothers me, and I've already shared this with you guys, is I guess in reality, I'm a free market capitalist, if I understand that definition correctly. Hold on, let's just ask, hey Siri, what is free market capitalism?
Here's what I found from wikipedia.org. Free market economy refers to a capitalist economic system where prices for goods and services are set freely by the forces of supply and demand and are allowed to reach their point of equilibrium without intervention by government policy.
Okay, so if I understand free market capitalism correctly, basically it means that it's 100% merit. So if you're running your business efficiently, correctly, you're serving your customers, you're providing something that's wanted, it's priced fairly, you will stay in business. If you are sorry and lazy and you offer crap customer service, the products are shoddy, you know what I mean? It's touch and go. Customers never really know if they're going to get a good experience. Then ultimately you go out of business. That's the way it's supposed to be. That's the way it's supposed to be designed. But what happens when you prop up companies that have been engaging in bad business in one way or the other, or just poorly run, they are supposed to fold. It doesn't matter how many employees are attached to them. They're supposed to go under because that is their reward for bad business. But when you prop them up and just pump millions and billions of dollars into them, they never have to change. They never have to accommodate the times or accommodate customers. They never have to get better, ever. So what incentive do they have to improve when they know, hey, if it gets bad enough, we'll just go knock on the Fed's door and they'll give us a couple $1 billion. We'll keep going. It's hot potato. You're playing a very long, extended game of hot potato. And that's why so many of our services suck today, because they haven't been allowed to collapse and go under like they're supposed to. Don't get me started. That's a whole different stream, different topic, and possibly a different channel. Page 179 still, it says people who chase after society's definition of success will never reach it. It's a self-perpetuating problem. Individuals seek society's definition of success, status, and money, but as they gain more of both, they still feel unsatisfied. So they seek still more status and money by working harder and longer. The organization loves this kind of dysfunctional activity. So we're still on this theme of dysfunction, okay? And essentially what this is saying is people are chasing after these things, status and money. So they start to get little bits of it, but it doesn't take long before they start to feel unsatisfied. So they're willing to do more and more and more to achieve this place in their mind that they actually are never probably going to reach in this particular search. And the organization, the corporate cult, loves it because that means you'll give everything to achieve this little dream in your mind. Like they really benefit from that. You see what I mean? They benefit from your motivations, I guess you could say. Okay. And they'll probably feed into it in many ways. Like, yeah, be all you can be. It made me think of like the mass indoctrination we as Americans have experienced. Like, oh, this is the land of opportunity. You can achieve anything. You can be anything you want to be. So what would you do as a person if you've been told you live in a place where you can literally do anything you want to do if you just work hard enough? And for a long time, we believed that to be true until we discovered that there are some people who simply just have to be associated with the right company or born into the right family, and you really don't have to work at all. And you're going to have everything that other people have to work hard enough for. Do you understand? You've been pimped, baby. You've had game run on you your whole life. Yeah. You can be anything you want to be. Yeah, there are no barriers. There are no walls. There are no traps to success. You can do anything. You can be anything you want to be. Look at this person. They did it. Look at this one person over there. They did it. Yeah. Just go into like $100,000 of student loan debt. No problem. You can be whatever you want to be. Yeah. Do it. Just something to think about. All right. Let's keep going. So this quote actually came from a Xerox vice president. I don't know if she still is because this book is 20 years old at this point, but her name was Anne Mulcahy. It says, you always have to be in control of your boundaries. The minute you let any company, any manager try to set them for you, you've lost it. And I thought that was brilliant, and it made me wonder, and it got me to thinking, like, I know this particular author says that pretty much everyone in high positions are members of cults, corporate cults. But I wonder if there's also an unspoken group who reach these high positions in these companies because they maintain their boundaries. And it's almost like a situation where, oh, wow, he or she is uncrackable. You can't shake that one. Yeah, we need that type of strength up high. It's just a thought. He doesn't talk about that in the book, but it was just something I was thinking about, like, yeah, I'm sure half of them are culted, but I wonder if the other half make it that far up because they refuse to be culted. So maybe it's like a long-term project, like, oh, I'm going to crack this one. I'm going to break her down. I'm going to make her crawl. It's like, no, you won't. The only thing you will make happen is me walk out of the door. That's it. Don't make me file a lawsuit. Now, always have to be in control of your boundaries. And here's the thing. This deserves its whole own separate show, but your boundaries are violated and pulled on in so many different ways. There are big ways, but there are also small ways. You understand? And the issue is you have to be cognizant and aware at all times, because once you start to give in little ways, it's not long before you're giving in big ways. And I mean that. This might be a bad example, and I hope I don't offend anyone, but an example would be, for example, when they start selling the Girl Scout cookies every year, right? Now, you may not mind. Maybe you were a Girl Scout. Maybe you believe in the cause. So you always buy cookies. That's your business. That's your money. I'm not judging you. But there are some of us who know that when you buy one box of Girl Scout cookies, you're going to buy all the Girl Scout cookies every year. And what I mean by that is that same individual is going to come hitting you up because it's annual Girl Scout season. And then when they catch wind that you bought some, the other mom from the fifth floor is going to pop down and say, hey, my daughter's selling Girl Scout cookies too. Would you like some? And before you know it, you've spent $1,000 on Girl Scout cookies and you're not sure how that happened because you don't want to be mean, right? You don't want to be the one coworker who doesn't participate, right? So you participate because you want to be part of the group, part of the team. You want to be seen as a team player. And before you know it, you've spent $250 on Girl Scout cookies or whatever, magazine subscriptions, whatever the kids are selling these days. Do you see what I mean? And I'm just using that as an example. I'm not knocking on the Girl Scouts, okay? My point is, if that's a boundary of yours, you have to set it. If it's not, then it's not. Buy the cookies. Do you see what I mean? But you have to set them because if not, you will lose it. And before you know it, you won't even recognize yourself anymore. You won't. I was very, very good about setting boundaries in the corporate environment, and it always got me in trouble, but the boundaries were set. I have a right to set certain boundaries. You see? So then he kind of got into the discussion of like them analyzing data of people who get hired and all this. And he said, recruits who ask lifestyle questions in the pre-hire interviews, end up being top performers in their jobs. So they end up being top performers asking the lifestyle questions, meaning questions like, what is the work-life balance here? What are the after-work expectations? How many hours will I be working each week? And the reason I believe is because they know what's important. So when they're working, they're going to prioritize your work because they know what's important. They have a life that they're trying to get back to. They want to do good on the job because the job is indeed funding their life. So why would they mess up in an area that's funding the life that they actually love? So of course they're going to be top performers for you because they like or they want the money at minimum, but maybe they need the job to fund the life that they love. So this correlation makes sense to me. Versus a person who doesn't necessarily love their life, they may not work as hard or perform as well on the job because they don't really like their life anyway. So if they lose this money, is it really going to be a big impact on the life that they don't really care about that much anyway? Maybe not. It all makes perfect sense to me. The correlation makes sense to me. All right. So let's keep going. We're on page 184. This made me laugh. It says continuing to be a member in good standing of a corporate cult means putting in face time at the office. Since corporate cults hire people for who they are, not what they do, the measure of success is being who you are at the office and spending a lot of time there. Now, haven't we talked about this many times before? And I've said, I feel like you're just paying me for my presence. Like, do you just want to see me? Is that what this is about? Because if so, take away some of these job duties and responsibilities, honey, and I'll show up here every day. I'll literally just get dressed to come hang out if that's what you want, but you got to take away these other job duties as well. I'll be the company ambassador, just walk around all day, just go from floor to floor, talking to people, letting them dump all their issues and problems on me, fluttering up to the 10th floor, seeing what's up there, grabbing a few cookies that they brought in for the team meeting. I can do that all day if that's what you want me to do. But you got to remove these other job duties that you gave me that I thought you were paying me for, right? So I thought this was interesting. Being a good member means putting in face time at the office, okay? For all my new newbies, my new high school grads, my new college grads, listen, you don't really have to be that competent or that capable. Once everything goes back to normal, if it goes back to normal, all you really have to do is show up and really like being there. Just be there. Be like an office plant or a house plant. You know what I mean? You're just there. There, happy to be there, just present. Just be present. I promise you, you'll have a career for a very long time, because that's all that matters these days, right? So I thought this was interesting because in the absence of the office, you know, these narcs have been losing their minds, right? So what took the place of FaceTime at the office? Bam. Now, obviously, this particular picture was taken back when everyone was still in the office, but still, you get the drift. This is what's going on nationwide, all across the country. If I can't see you, I need to see you. Camera on, in your face. The whole time. How many people is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 25 people. 25 people. Yeah, this is a Zoom call. 25 people. Okay. Now tell me why you need to see 25 people all at once. It's just weird. Like, to me, it's more natural for the speaker to be seen. So I'll just pick the guy in the upper left-hand corner. It looks like his name is Josh Whitty. Like, if Josh Whitty is speaking, we should only be looking at him, really, because he's the one talking. That's what we would be doing in real life. If we were in a big conference room or a meeting room, whoever is talking is generally the person we're looking at. And then when they stop talking, we start looking at the person who is talking now. But in this scenario, we're literally staring at everyone all at once. And it's weird because if you think about it, as a person, you're not an actor and you're not an actress. And what I mean by that is actors and actresses have to be aware of their face and their movements and their body at all times, because the camera could be on them at any given moment. So they can't like come out of character thinking the camera is not on them, because the camera might be on them, especially if they're taking multiple different angles. So an actor or an actress must stay in character the whole time because the camera is on them and it's part of the movie. But you're a normal human, most of you. So you're not always prepped to remember, hey, don't stare off in the corner because everyone's looking at you right now. So you stare straight ahead like a psychopath, because to do otherwise makes you look unusual, but it wouldn't really be unusual in real life. Anyway, this has taken the place of, well, if I can't stare at you in your desk, in your seat, you better turn that camera on for every single interaction we have. And guess what started to happen? These platforms can't support it. And I think it's hilarious. WebEx, Zoom, what else? There's another one. They can't support all these webcams on at once. They still don't have the bandwidth for it. So what ends up happening is the first half of the meeting is everyone turning on their camera. Then everyone trying to figure out who's unmuted and making all the noise in the background. Then you get them muted finally. Then the person starts talking, it's choppy. And finally, someone has the courage to say, hey, maybe if you killed your camera, it'll come through clearer. They kill their camera, clear, crystal clear. And before you know it, all the cameras are off because it chops up the sound. It's just silly. It's a silly time, but you have to understand who we're dealing with. We're dealing with people who demand to see you, who do not trust you, who really probably don't even know what they hired you for or what you do. All they know is that you are theirs and they want to look at you. You're like their little goldfish. Wouldn't you want to see your goldfish if you bought one? Moving on to page 184, it says, in this sense, corporate cults are one era behind. Hold on, let me see what that was in response to. 1 second. Excuse me. is it? Oh, okay. Yeah, it was the tail end of that previous paragraph. So it said, since corporate cults hire people for who they are, not what they do, the measure of success is being who you are at the office and spending a lot of time there. In this sense, corporate cults are one era behind. Now, I agree. Now, how many times have I said to you guys, these companies are dated? They need overhauls. Like some of them, you walk in, you feel like you're walking 30 years into the past. It really feels that way. Now, in a futuristic sense and on like a Black Mirror type conversation, I actually think these corporate cults are one era ahead. And I'll tell you why. Who'd have thought and who'd have known that, like, instead of moving away from like a corporate cult design, we're moving closer and closer to it, towards it, if we don't talk about it and break it up before it completely solidifies. So he wrote this book in 2000. He said they're one era behind. That was correct. But this was also before social media took off the way it did. Now it's become a situation where, like we've been discussing, your physical presence is more important than the work you're actually doing. That's very futuristic, Black Mirror type, we'll make all your decisions for you type situation. Like you don't even need to leave your house anymore. We'll wake you up. We'll cook your breakfast in your kitchen. We'll automate that. Mess around. Eventually they'll regulate when you can go to the bathroom. They'll put it in there. They'll put a little chip in there. Hey, it's time for you to go to the bathroom. Like, I'm just kidding, but aren't we kind of close to that? So that's up for debate. Are we one era behind, or are we actually moving into the scary future that nobody predicted? I heard a good quote and I forgot how it went, but essentially the guy said to him, he said, you suffer from the same problem all optimists suffer from, which is you only think about the good things that could happen. It's something like that. I don't know the exact quote, but I think this would be an example of that. Like with the rise of all this technology, yeah, it connected us more, but no one ever thought that this might actually turn the people who were already monsters into bigger monsters, because it's like, well, now I can control every little aspect of your life. Like monitoring what you do in your home. Like if I'm so against that. Like if this is a company computer, I get you wanting to monitor it. It's a company resource, but they've got it. Some softwares now that are down to keystrokes, meaning, in the past hour, this employee made 3 keystrokes. So it won't necessarily tell you what they were doing, but like say like an average hour, you make like 3,000 keystrokes. So your boss knows you're working, but this software can report like in the past hour, this employee made 0 keystrokes, meaning your computer is on, but you're not doing anything. I feel like that's so invasive. And I would never allow that on my personal computer. Work computer, fine. But as soon as I find out about it, I'm probably going to quit, because you can't make assumptions. Just ask me. Anyway, I'm diverging. Non-cult companies measure success by output, not face time. And I made a note to myself that says, I can't imagine measuring by anything else. I hired you for a reason. Like, I just find that to be so weird and so bizarre. You hire this person, maybe to be a data scientist at your company, and you could care less about the data science. All you care about is that you get to see them every day. You're a weirdo. That's strange. Like, you got to understand how strange that is. And to me, if you don't have anything else you're measuring by, like output, to me, you're probably a sham operation. You're a shell company. You're just propped up by investor money. And when the investor money runs out, the company is going to fold, because what are you making? What are you doing? What do you actually produce? What do you actually make? And if I can't measure whether or not you're delivering on that, what are we doing? Is this a pyramid scheme? Okay. So let's move on. So this is not how this appears in the book. I just took it and kind of broke it down and made it like a list format, but he got into a conversation about star performers, right? Now, the corporate cult would have you believe that the star performer is everything that we just talked about, the person who wants to stay late, work overtime, always striving for success, reaching higher and higher and higher. That's not really your star performer. You know, your star performer is the one who's getting the work done, doing it well, and making your company look really good in the process. But the thing about star performers is they're very, very different people. So here's kind of the qualities that he attributed to star performers. He said they have rich, interesting lives outside of work, meaning they have a life that they're trying to get back to. They use shortcuts that would be considered indiscretions in corporate cults, meaning within a few weeks or a few months, your star performer is going to be thinking in terms of efficiency. Because remember, they have a life they're trying to get back to. So they want to do the job 100%, if not 110, but they're not going to like lollygag and play games and waste time with you. They're going to do it in the most efficient method possible. Of course, that's within the boundaries of the company rules. But to do so is considered like, you know, like, and I've seen this happen. This has happened to me. Like I find like a better way to do something and it's like they get uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. For example, one of my jobs, I had to take supplies from like the supply closet down to this classroom. And when they were showing me like where and how, I'm like, oh my gosh, y'all have to carry all of this? And they're like, yep, yeah, we have to carry it all. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, oh, I'm not carrying all this stuff. I'm getting a cart. And I just so happen to have a cart in my car, one of those foldable like trolley carts, whatever. And so I started using that. And when they noticed me using the cart, I could tell they were like, it's kind of like, how dare she find a better way to do this? Like, how dare she not strain her shoulders and arms and, you know what I mean, everything. How dare she be more efficient and more innovative? How dare she work smart? Exactly. How dare she work smart? I'm like, y'all could have had a cart a long time ago. Because I'm the type of person where like I'll ask for something and then if I can afford it, I know the principle is off, but if I can afford it and I need it, I'll just buy it. I just happen to have that cart already. But if I didn't, I was going to ask for it. Like, can we get a cart? I'm not carrying all this by hand. Are you out of your mind? And if they refuse the cart, I'll just buy one myself. And that's why they don't like me. Because I always operate within the bounds of the rules. Because that would be my first question. Like, are carts not allowed because of like some safety issue, OSHA? You know what I mean? They're going to say no because it's not like a jungle gym. So I'm going to bring my cart in and use it to tote these supplies. And that pisses them off. Like, well, we told her she couldn't have a cart. No, you told me you were not paying for a cart. I'll buy it. And when I quit this little miserable, insufferable company, I'm taking my cart with me. Thank you. How dare I improve? Exactly. How dare you improve? We've been hauling all these supplies, these charts and this graph paper and boxes and papers and manual. We've been hauling all this by hand and grumbling about it for the past 5 years. And this little upstart bitch comes in here and is like, I'm not carrying all that by hand. I'm going to use the cart. And she does. How dare she? Okay. Back to the list. Star performers are generally no nonsense, meaning they're here to work. They're not here to like play games. Like if friendships form, that's fantastic. But overall, they're not there to make friends. They already have friends. They're there to work. They're very frustrated by bureaucracy and red tape, just crazy, unnecessary rules, multiple layers of clearance. And this is not the federal government. You see what I mean? And they will leave organizations with a quickness. They will get out of there quickly, because they recognize their value and they recognize when they're spinning their wheels also. And they just recognize that life is precious, time is precious. And if I have to devote so much of it to you on a daily basis, I want it to be a valuable time spend. Star performers value their time. And if you are intent on wasting it, they will leave you quickly. Did you know that a lot of organizations who have the funding and capacity have whole departments in their HR devoted to keeping their top talent? They need to be devoted to figuring out how to keep everyone, but they are specifically devoted to keeping their top talent. Did you know that? And the reason is because top talent is in high demand and highly poachable, meaning all it takes is a phone call from another firm, another company, a competitor offering a brighter day and a better life, and they'll take it and they'll leave you high and dry. And they have no problems doing it either. So that's another reason we need to do away with that question. Why did you leave your last job? This is how I'm going to answer that question the next time I have a job interview. It has to be a job I don't want, but I guarantee you I'd get it because that's just my luck. When I decide I don't want a job during the interview, I typically try to throw it. And for some reason, it never works. I always end up getting the offer. And I'm like, wow, you would hire me after I said that in an interview? Something's wrong with you, clearly. But every interview I've ever tried to throw, I end up getting the job. But this is how I'm going to answer that question next time. So PTE, tell me, why did you leave your last job? I'm going to say, well, I have a rich, interesting life outside of work. I use a lot of shortcuts that people like you probably consider indiscretions, but they work. They're very efficient. They save the company money. I'm generally no nonsense, but I do put on a good face of trying to tolerate nonsense for a very long time until I just can't take it anymore. I'm very frustrated by bureaucracy. And for all of those reasons, I got out of there. Had to get out of there quick. What are your thoughts? I'm going to try it just for fun. Just for fun. I'm just going to hit them with that first line. Well, I have a rich, interesting life outside of work. That's the main reason I quit my last job. They wanted my whole life. What are your thoughts on that? Okay, let's keep moving. Page 186, healthy corporations like healthy families teach choice and independence. Corporate cults don't, right? Now, on a similar thread, the follow-up quote to that, corporate cults are afraid that employees who go elsewhere for education might be indoctrinated with foreign ideas or values. So what he was speaking on there was how many corporate cults have their own in-house training, and they rarely refer their employees to external training. Now, excuse me, in fairness, external training is very expensive. It's not cheap. So in fairness, there's the financial argument there, but take finances away. Corporate cults are going to prefer in-house training because then you can keep all that indoctrination in-house. Okay. And the note that I made to myself was, it's kind of like how victimizers isolate their victims from their friends and families. Like, no, you're not going to go get any outside knowledge. We'll teach you everything you need to know. You don't need to know what's going on out there. There is no out there. There's only in here, right? So they're afraid that you'll get to talking to somebody and be like, wait a minute, I think the situation I'm in is kind of messed up. They don't want that indoctrination broken. You understand? All in-house. Now, this was funny to me because he got on to company trainers, which those of you who've been with me for a while know that I have been one of those before. And it says, company trainers must be the most culted so that management can be confident of their ability to pass along company dogma in the educational setting, right? Now, in my defense, like I made it to that role, but I don't think I was ever actually culted because I used to clash with the trainers who were culted all the time. I think I told you the story of the one trainer I clashed with who decided the way to discipline a class full of adults was to move all their seats around. Now, those of you who've ever been in a training room who have like a training seat, like, eventually you start leaving your Post-it notes there, you leave your pens and your pencils, your notepads, your little hand sanitizer. You might have a little succulent flower that you put there because it's your desk area. You're going to be there for a few weeks, right? So picture coming in, mentally, you're prepared to go sit in your desk area, and your trainer tells you, an adult, oh, I moved your seat and everybody else's. Go find your new name tag. And the first 10 minutes of class are people shuffling all of their items from their old seat, grumbling, of course, to the new seat that was decided by their trainer because their trainer decided that they were behaving badly. And it really wasn't all of them. It was like 5 of them in a class of 30. So that's what I mean by clashing, because I clashed with her over that. I was like, please don't do that. I was like, that is such a bad idea. That's not going to go over well. You're going to lose so much respect because they all didn't do this to you. There's 5 of them acting out. Isolate those 5. Don't punish the whole class. She didn't listen to me. Now, if I was a good culted company trainer, I would have been like, yeah, move those seats. I'm going to put these 3 over here. That'll show them. Yep. Yep. You're going to respect me. Yep. I'm going to move your seat because I have power over you. Yeah. Do something about it. But the human in me, the non-culted human, was like, don't do that, because I could picture myself in their shoes. And I even advocated from the ADA perspective. I was like, what if some people are sitting up front so they can see you, so they can see the boards, they can see the projector screen, whatever, the screen that drops down. What if they're up front so they can see? What if they're up front to get away from those 5 who are acting out? You cannot do this to them. Don't do this. She did it anyway. And it was war between she and I from then on out, because I'm like, I can't, I will never go along with this. I don't support this. Anyway, very long story to say that, yes, I was a corporate trainer, but clearly I wasn't culted enough, because I just didn't believe in abusing and mistreating adults. It's just silly. Or kids. Like, everyone can be approached with reason. And if you're not a reasonable person, well, maybe you just don't need this job. If I can't reason with you and say, hey, all this week you've been acting out in class. Now you're really making it a problem, and I'm trying to figure out different solutions. So before I shuffle the whole class, can you chill? Can you do that? And if they can't do that, get rid of them. You don't punish the whole class. Anyway, still on the company training theme, I had a thought. And this thought was, they run the same training classes year after year after year. 10 years later, you come back to the same company, they're running the same classes, taught usually by the same trainers. 10 years later, same trainers, same classes, same books are given out year after year after year. All this comes together to produce the exact same person. And this is kind of the point of this whole entire live stream. This is what they want. They want the same person reproduced over and over again. So when you start to show signs of independence, you're either going to be reprimanded or removed, one or the other. You understand? The goal is the same person, which is why they don't switch it up. Like, every time I've been in a role like that, I'm like, oh, have you guys heard of this training? It's great. It's taught by this institute. It covers this. I'll do all the research. I'll do a presentation. I'll pitch it. Let's incorporate this into our curriculum. And almost all of them have flopped completely dead. They don't want new. Don't you get that, PCE? You don't get that yet, girl. They don't want new. They don't want fresh blood flowing through that place. Because the objective is to create the same person year after year for 20 years. That's the objective. They don't want new, girl. Don't you get that? Moving on, this is page 191. It says, the problem is caused by his escalation of commitment to his functional profession or company. Such people become proficient and knowledgeable about the function they are performing, and their salary slowly increases until they are worth so much more in their functional specialization than they would be outside it that they can't leave. They are trapped. Okay. So this makes me think of a lot of different industries that ultimately become traps for people. And one of those traps that I thought about was Hollywood. Hey, Ronald, thank you so much for the super chat. Well, look how timely that is. Ronald said off subject, but you could be a great singer with that voice. Thank you, Ronald. Believe it or not, I actually love to sing. It's one of my favorite things to do. And every now and then I contemplate pursuing that. Like, I think I'd be a pretty good wedding singer. But the issue with like trying to get into the music industry is exactly what we're looking at right here on the screen. It's a quick and easy way to get yourself trapped in a profession, because I guarantee you there are so many celebrities who want to leave, who don't want to be stars anymore, but they can't do anything else. Everybody recognizes them. Everybody knows them for that one thing. Like, there are some celebrities who play a role either in a movie or a TV show so well that they have trouble getting hired for other movies and other TV shows because nobody can see them beyond that character. Nobody can visualize them or picture them as anything else other than that character. It's hard. Like, we as people, now the best actors and actresses can absolutely do it. But even the best actor or best actress can't stop the association people make with a certain character. So I think the word is called typecasting. They get typecast, which is a little bit different from what I'm talking about. When you get typecast, that means you're always picked to play a certain role, right? A certain type of role. Like, you're always a mother, you're always a father, you're always a certain type of character, which can be good and bad, mostly bad, because then you can't branch out and do anything else. But what I'm talking about is when people flat out associate you with one character to the point where that's the name that they call you when they see you in public. And the celebrity will be like, that's not my name. It's not who I am. They're like, yes, it is. I know that's you. I don't care. You can hide all you want. So my point in saying all that is, in many ways, these individuals are trapped. And I know some will say, I don't feel sorry for them. They went into it voluntarily, blah, 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 blah. But didn't you watch the movie? You watched the movie, didn't you? You watched the TV show. You watched the game. So you've benefited from their presence in those places. So yeah, they chose it. But at the same time, you asked for it in many ways. And they're trapped. And this is not the only example. Another place people can get trapped is like in the medical field. When you've devoted that many years to the study, that much money to the schooling, you work so hard to work your way up in the ranks, where are you going to go after that? It's hard to reverse course, right? But it all has to do with that escalation of commitment. And they call it the golden handcuffs, actually. Y'all want me to sing for you one day. One day I will. One day. I've been working on it for years. And I actually feel like my voice matured late in life. Anyone have any insight on that? Any singers or vocal specialists? I feel like my voice didn't mature until start maturing until my 30s. So, but yeah. So anyway, let's keep going. This is our last slide, and then we'll go into after show. It says corporate cult members have confused the organon, meaning organization, with its product. And the example he gave in the book was, he said, wow, we were on the topic of music and musicians. He said, musicians admire the instrument for what it is, but they like the instrument for what it does more. So if you play a violin, you might appreciate a very expensive violin, but chances are you appreciate it because of the music it makes, because of the sound that it makes, not necessarily just because it's expensive. He was saying the same thing with companies. Companies are supposed to produce something, a paycheck. So, but what happens is people fall in love with the instrument and not the product or the output of that instrument. The instrument in this case would be the organization. People fall in love with the organization and not what the organization is supposed to be doing for them. It's an exchange, remember? So the close of this particular stream's content would be careful not to fall in love with the instrument and focus on what that instrument is supposed to be doing for you. And with that, you guys, that concludes chapter 10 of Corporate Cults Independence. Thank you all so much for joining and being here with me. Oh, look at that. Quite a few ladies in the chat have gotten their voice changed in their 30s. Yes, because there were times when I was younger where I would try to hit certain notes and it would like itch and like crackle in the back of my throat. And I'm like, well, I guess I just can't hit that note. But now that I'm older, I can. So I'm like, I guess my voice was still just maturing. Very interesting. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the live stream. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to go through your comments very briefly, and then we'll take off. And we are almost done with our book. Can you believe it? All right, let me scroll as far up as it will let me go. We'll go through these comments and we'll get out of here. Right. It says, yes, PTE, it's creepy. We are people, not pets. Exactly. We're people, you know. They expect a certain loyalty out of you as if you are a pet who should be very thankful for the food that the owner feeds them. And that's just not the type of party that we're having anymore. I don't know that that ever really worked, but we have moved now into what I consider to be critical mass, meaning we can no longer afford to play these kinds of games at work. You see what happened when we had a major emergency, whether you believe it's real or fake. We had a major emergency and we were not able to pivot as a society because no one had ever taken the time to sit down and think about it. Everyone was focused on these popularity contests. For example, I found out, and I don't know if this is true across all law schools. I just found out that this was true about this one law school. The person told me that when you're in law school, you're ranked as a student. So you're either like the top student or the bottom student, and then there are all the students in between. And in law school, ranking is very important, but when you graduate, no one cares. So I just thought that was so interesting. I'm like, so if ranking doesn't matter when you're in school, why do they bother with it? They're like, that's just the way that it is. Like, it's very competitive. It's very cutthroat because everyone wants to be ranked high as a student. But when it comes to like job offers and things like that, no one cares. So that would be an example of what I would call wasted time. If your ranking as a student is not directly associated with some outcome outside of school, we're wasting time. We need to be focused on the law here. We're going to need a lot of new lawyers here in the future. And the reason I say that is because I'm seeing how quickly and easily reality is being distorted in our society. So we need people who make it their business to hold on to facts, to hold on to reality, to hold on to the law and what its intent was meant to be. We're going to need a lot of people who aren't necessarily skilled in arguing, excuse me, who are just skilled in paying attention and having a level head and a clear mind. That's who we're going to need. Let's see. All right. See what I mean? It says, I've been written up for going to the bathroom. Like, that's ridiculous. We've got to re-embrace humanity and humane treatment. Like the article was saying. Like, how can you tell someone when they need to go to the restroom? I turned down a job at this little school. It was like a preschool because I discovered that they give the kids like one square, and I mean a literal square of toilet paper to go to the bathroom with. And I was like, why do you give them so little toilet paper? And the principal or the whatever she was, she said, oh, because we don't want them to waste it all and clog the toilets. I said, yeah, but one square? I was like, they're kids, but they need more than one square of toilet paper. And she's like, they're fine. I'm like, oh no, ma'am. Nope. Not working here because I'm not going to give someone's child one square of toilet paper and tell them good luck in the bathroom. No, I'm not doing that. Let's see here. Right. It says like people's homes aren't even safe havens anymore. That's why they have created those backgrounds. Actually, I can show you. Give me 1 second. Oh, all I have to do is go backwards. Let's see. Where is that slide? So a couple people on here have backgrounds up. So if you look where my mouse is, you can see my mouse. Down here in this lower right-hand corner, you see this forest back here? That's a background. So he's covering his house, which I love. You have every right to do that. Right below him, same thing. This girl has a background on. It's like, you're not going to be all up in my house, you psycho stalker. This girl has a background on. You see? You lunatic. You're not going to see my house, what's going on, who all is here, what all is going on in the background. They got a background on too. You see? So I think they designed it to be fun, but they also did it for like the schools who use it so the kids don't like expose their homes and things like that. Okay. Yep. This is going on. Keystrokes, idle time, screenshots of the sites and pages you visit. Like, if that is not psychotic stalking, I'm so uncomfortable with that. And I feel like the privacy advocates need to get on this. And if nothing else, you should have something in your screen. Like right now on my other screen, it says you are sharing your screen. So I know very much that my screen is showing, that says the words after show. It should be the same thing, like system monitoring is on, right? And some people would argue and say, well, you shouldn't be doing those things anyway. That's why your boss doesn't trust you, because you're going to all these other ways. Sit down, have a boost. Okay. We are all adults, right? What did you assign me to do? Am I missing my deadlines? Are you lacking in any way? Are my customers satisfied? Did I deliver a professional customer service experience? Then get off my jock when I go check my bank account. Okay. Yes, I went and checked my bank account. I sure did. I spent 5 minutes going through everything. I sure did. Get off my jock. Okay. Okay. I'm idle. Wow. I probably got up and went to the bathroom. Like, I can't, y'all. I can't. Every day it makes me want to become an attorney to battle against this kind of stuff, because no one's out there battling against this. All the attorneys are focused on other things. And that's why this stuff is spiraling out of control, because no one even really is paying attention. Let's see. Just going through your comments. Yep, it says the moment you find a way to be more efficient, it's a whole problem. Yes, it is. It's like, how dare you find a better way? Even if it saves us money, how dare you? How dare you be intelligent? How dare you improve? Let's see. So they want you to work smarter, not harder, but they don't acknowledge what makes it smarter. Exactly. They don't acknowledge it, internalize it, learn from it, put it into practice. If I ever, y'all, am able to go ahead and set up a company, I promise you, it's going to be a teaching organization. We are going to put into practice everything I preach. and analyze it. It's going to be like a research-based teaching type organization. So part of the reason we're even going to be in existence is to simply demonstrate and show that these ideas work, you know? And then I guess what we sell is me going around the country telling everybody that. Seminars, organizational little events, things like that. So that'll be like how we make money, I guess. And then charge people to come in and analyze us like lab rats. Like, why is this working so well, Miss PTE? I'm gonna say, well, because I treat them like human beings. It's pretty easy. Well, I mean, how do you get returns by treating someone like a human? I'm like, are you a human? Are you yeah, okay, yep, I knew you weren't. I knew it. I could see that. I could see it in your eyes. Gotcha. Well, you're going to have to put on your human hat to understand, okay? I'm glad you're enjoying it. So this is hilarious, PTE, love it. Glad you're enjoying it. It is hilarious. And sad that we're even having this conversation. I told you guys, my ultimate goal for this channel is to convert it into a baking channel where we talk about baking, cookies and cakes and pies and things like that. Baking with PTE, because I would love for this to no longer be relevant in our society. For people to actually snap out of it would be phenomenal. For it to be completely irrelevant would be great. That would make me actually want to bring kids here, because I wouldn't have to worry about them battling all the narc demons out here, you see? But until then, this is what we'll be talking about. But one day we'll have a baking channel, baking with PTE. I'm serious. That is what they do. They oh, hey guys, I got my cart here. I'm just going to use this to take this down to the room. Like, okay, you're welcome to borrow it anytime you want. Let's see here. Yes, it says, I'll bring my own cart is a great analogy for anyone who brings their own independent thought and knowledge to these companies. They want your body and mind empty. No carts allowed. I love that. I'll bring my own cart. It embodies the whole spirit, the whole mood, and the whole energy. I'll bring my own cart. Hey, I noticed that this would be a lot easier if we had a cart. Can I order one? No, we don't have it in the budget. Okay, no problem. I'll bring my own cart. No problem at all. I'll bring my own cart. And then I do. And it works. And it's easier and faster. And they let's see here. Still just scrolling your comments. Thanks you guys for hanging out with me on this Tuesday afternoon / evening. Let's see. Right. I saw, did I take a screenshot and will I be able to get it to this computer fast enough? Let me see. I saw a picture on LinkedIn the other day. I almost tweeted it and then I just got distracted. But the guy had on a shirt that said, please don't come up to me. I'm easily distracted. I found it. Let me see here. Let me see if I can do some quick. Oh, yes, we're doing this because I found it. Give me a second. I'm going to take this off. My computer is going so slow. All right, let me do this really quick. Welcome to everybody as you come in the room. I'm just sending myself something. And done. And I want to, let's see if my AirDrop is working. Why don't we? Okay. So while this is in the process of coming to me, it plays off that point which is, you do know they're paying me to be here, right? Let me go retrieve this. But that just tells me that a lot of these companies, honestly, really and truly don't have anything going on. What happened was they probably have good credit because they pay all their bills, which is good. There's nothing wrong with that. But what happens is they're able to get money anytime they want it. So they never actually have to improve as a company because they never suffer the consequences of having no money because they messed up like the rest of us, you see. When the rest of us mess up, we have to kind of suffer the consequences of messing up financially. When these companies mess up, they do not suffer those consequences. And that is kind of my point. But going back to this point, okay, now let's do this. All these windows and screen. I need like 6 screens, y'all, at all times. Let's see, let's pull you over here. Let's drag this, make this big. Boom, okay. So in response to this comment right here that says, I want to tell some people at work, you know they're paying me to be here, right? I saw this on LinkedIn and I wanted to do a commentary on this. So since we're here, we're going to. So the back of his shirt reads, please don't talk to me. I have no self-control and will talk to you for 2 hours and get no work done, right? So when I was reading through the comments of this particular post, the sentiment was, oh, look at his self-awareness. Oh, I'm so proud that he's aware like that. And then like some other comments were like, does his boss know that he's talkative like that? Like they put all the onus on him, right? And I thought this was all very cute, but my only thought was, what about the people who feel like they can just walk up to him and invade his space though? Like the fact that he has to put that sign on his back, it's actually pretty strategic and very reverse psychology, which is basically saying, I know you're not going to leave me alone on your own recognizance, so I'll put it on me and say, hey, it's not you, it's my fault that I can't focus on my work because of you. So please don't interrupt me because I can't focus long enough to get my work done. What about the people who feel like they can just roll up to this guy and interrupt him? I don't get it. Why do they feel like they have the right to interrupt him anytime they want to? Aren't they working at the same company? Don't they have the same type of job? So it's just kind of mind-boggling to me. It's so unfair, I feel. Like it's very strategic, but I guarantee you they're still coming right up to him, tapping on his shoulder. I guarantee they're tapping him on his shoulder to laugh about the sign, like, hey, great sign there, bud. So this is what we're dealing with. This is a grown man, has been reduced to begging, essentially, pleading with his coworkers, please don't talk to me. Is it really his fault he has no self-control, or is it the fault of the coworkers who feel like they can just walk up to him and interrupt him without asking, hey, do you have a second? You know, or emailing, hey, when you free up, will you come talk to me? I have something to ask you. You see what I mean? Nope. They just feel entitled to walk right up on you. So I'm glad I found that. I'm glad I remembered to share that with you all. Let's put our other screen back up here. All right, let's keep going. Interviews are like beginning a new relationship. The lines are very blurred, and I don't like it because I feel like the underlying spirit of most interviews is like lie to me good so we can hire you. It's hard for me to explain. It's almost like, tell us why you think we're awesome. And it's like, well, I mean, you're in business. That's impressive. You know, it's almost, again, like rushing a fraternity or sorority. Tell us why you want to be here. Well, you have an opening, doll. You have an opening and I have the skill set. What do you mean? But that's not what they want to hear. They want to hear, you recite like their quarterly numbers and how much they do in the community and how much they've given back, and they want to they want you to praise them and put flowers at their feet as part of the interview process. Now, yes, you should know what company you're applying to and what you're applying for, but they want praise, not knowledge, if that makes sense. The bigger question should be, do you understand this role's scope in the big picture of this organization? Tell me what you think this role does for this company. Those are better questions. Hey, you applied to this specific role. What do you think this role actually does for our company? There's a good question, because that's going to show you, do they know what these people do? Do they know how it fits into the bigger picture? And what do they already know about the company? Not, why do you want to work here? Because you have a job opening, Susan. Come on. That's what you got to hit them with right there. That's one of the favorites. What are your thoughts? I'm telling you, round out anything with that. What are your thoughts? It's one of those favorites. It's just like low hanging fruit. What are your thoughts? I've been in this too long. I think I need deprogramming. Let's see here. Mm-hmm. Right. It says, so true, PTE, but deeply cultured people are quite horrible too. They don't think, they only follow the program established by the NARC. And this is kind of getting at why I was saying a couple streams ago that you can pump more money into the educational system, but nothing is going to change. And the reason nothing is going to change is because the same people who have run it into the ground currently will be the same people receiving all the fresh new money. And they're going to run that money into the ground too. There has to be a fundamental change of mindset to actually see any real change. You understand? And part of the reason you're going to have trouble getting that fundamental change of mindset is because so many narcs are deeply culted and deeply rooted into these organizations. You can almost spot them immediately. As soon as you meet them, you just know they have that energy on them. I can't explain it. It ages people rapidly though. This energy. But it's like I've met people my age in interviews and I'm like, girl, you better give this up soon, honey, because wow, it is tanking you. It's tanking you out. It's aging you rapidly. That demon energy ages you rapidly. But this is what it is. They've been there so long. They're so deeply culted. They haven't entertained any new ideas. So it's like, going back to the educational example, yeah, pump all the money you want to, but if the people there are not willing to innovate and figure out how can we apply all this new money in ways that'll actually help, it's going to go to waste again. You got to get rid of the people. Not all of them, but a good majority. Oh yeah, she was hot with me. She says she was mad that you two weren't a united front, but you tried to warn her. So that's in relation to the trainer that I clashed with. I did try to warn her because I understand human nature. Narcs either don't understand human nature or they completely disregard it. One or the other or both. But I do understand human nature, and I understand human nature in terms of cause and effect. If you do this, it's going to have this effect. And it did. They rebelled. So I have an interesting theory. It says, I wonder sometimes if at these national conferences, the cult leaders are meeting at midnight and drinking funny potions. So my interesting theory deviates into a deeper PTE, which are my far out there theories and things like that. And it's actually not my theory. Some religions actually believe this, but I believe at night when we go to sleep, we go report to whoever our actual overlord is. So those whose overlord is the Most High God, you go stand before God and give a report every night when you go to sleep. And these narc demons go stand before Satan and get their marching orders for the next day. How else could they all be on the same page the way that they are? There's got to be some sort of meeting of the minds somewhere. And I can't think of any other place than when you go to sleep at night. Just a theory. I'll save that for a deeper PTE, which is another one of my YouTube channels. Oh my goodness, I just saw a super chat pop in. Let me see if I can go find it. I'm way high up in the comments. Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate the super chat so much. Oops. There we go. I just got an exclamation point. Hey, I agree. Thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate it. Very much so. Because YouTube has been on one. YouTube's going to get in trouble too. Got a lawsuit out there. I'm going to see how it goes and see if I can get my name in the hat. Let's see here. Yep, it's a corporate quicksand trap. And it's so sad too, you guys, because it's like, I wish you guys knew how many people's like dreams have died in corporate. And in many ways, that's probably a good thing because it keeps you grounded to reality that we weren't supposed to tie our dreams to them in the first place. But imagine being a young person, you get a good job with a Fortune 500 or maybe even a Fortune 50 company, right? You start off, you work your way up slowly but surely. And at some point in that process, you think, okay, I can start up my retirement now. I can start up my 401k. Couple more years of doing this, I can probably go ahead and buy a house. I feel comfortable that if I met someone and got married, this job would support me through my marriage, my children, family, like you start to make kind of long-term plans after you've been there like a couple of years, like a year or two, you're like, okay, I think I'm going to be here. So, let me start setting things up. And then they kick in with all this cult behavior. And you realize that basically trying to stay there long term is not safe. It's not a safe situation in the theoretical sense. You might be physically safe, but you're not psychologically safe. You're not financially safe, not when someone's threatening your livelihood. If I ever have kids, my number one goal, among other things, would be to put them in a position that by the time they turn 18, no one can threaten their livelihood. Either they have a skill that they've capitalized on, some little side business that they started when they were teenagers that they, make money off of legitimately, or, whatever, or mommy's rich. But even if mommy's rich, you're going to come work for me. I'm not just going to give you money because I don't want you to be sorry and lazy. Or mommy's rich, or daddy's rich, or mommy and daddy are rich. Whatever the case may be, I don't want anyone to ever be able to threaten my child's livelihood. That would be my number one objective. Position them in such a way to where no boss, no supervisor, no peer, no coworker, no Karen, no nothing can threaten their livelihood. You see? And they will always carry that confidence of, in many ways here, sir or madam, this is voluntary. Yeah, you pay me. And in return, I do a great job for you, but this is voluntary. Yeah, this isn't my end all be all. My mother refused to allow that to happen. My mother refused to put me entirely in you guys' hands. She refused. Let's see. I'll sing for you guys one day. Maybe if we ever hit 100,000 subs, I'll sing something. All right, I'm still scrolling your comments. Right. Obey the organization and chase your tail for 10 hours a day. Right. And be happy doing it too. You got to be happy. You got to be enthusiastic about it. I think it would be so much fun. The comment says, PT, I want to go to law school with you. We'd really have a field day. I've had an opportunity to kind of sneak peek some curriculum. And you guys, I am so stimulated. I'm stimulated. And I'm really sitting over here thinking through a lot of things because I have to be very real with like who I know myself to be, what exhausts me, what wears me out. And one thing that has always worn me out with school is all the writing and reading, right? But the way it is in law school, it's all towards a purpose. So like your assignment might be prepare an argument based on this particular case study and defend your position. I'm like, okay, I can do that. That I can do. And then like the other part of the assignment might be read at least one other peer's argument and go against it or go for it, whatever. So like you're debating, you're arguing. And part of how you have to make your point is supporting it by the things that you've read and your interpretation of it or the law's interpretation of it. You see what I mean? Oh God, I'm so stimulated. Like, I feel like it might be very healthy for me. I feel like the school, I have very interesting feelings about school in general. And I think part of that might be because all of my school has been too low level. And I know that sounds really bad and it's probably coming out worse than I mean it, but I mean it, y'all. I think perhaps I've just never had the proper challenge. I've been given bubblegum, candy corn work. And I'm like, I'm not wasting my life doing this foolishness. This is nonsense. But when I saw that curriculum, I'm like, oh, I think this might be where I need to be. This might be home. I don't know. So I wonder if they have a class. You know how some universities have, you can kind of like survey the degree. So like when I thought I wanted to be a doctor, we took a class. It wasn't worth any credit, but basically it was a sneak preview of what you're getting ready to get into. And it was enough to filter me out. I was like, oh, absolutely not. No, thank you. I just saw a super chat come in and then it disappeared. Let me see if it's still here. See if I can find it. Here it is. Thank you so much for the super chat. It says, thanks for the topic and show. You are welcome. Thank you for the super chat and for your support. I appreciate it greatly. All right, let's get a few more of these comments and then we'll get out of here. So I'm thinking about it, you guys. Very much so. I think it's going to be needed in the future. It says, yes, how dare you not buckle and break down after I purposely and strategically place this barrier for you to trip on and fail. I put that there for you to trip on. How dare you hurdle over it? How dare you develop a workaround? Let's see here. We got to get that baking channel up and running, man. Dogs do this little grumble. It's so funny and weird. So my little puppy, when she used to get in more trouble than she does now, I'd have to put her in a crate for timeout. And I'd hear her in there, almost like she's going, put me in timeout. I'm like, are you over there like grumbling under your voice? Yep. She's such a cutie though. She's so cute. That's my little dog. Let's see here. Oh, Ronald, thank you for the super chat. It says, how dare she think outside the box? Right. You put those thoughts back in there. Let's see. Right. All he wanted to do was go to work and go home. He had to go to the extreme of sticking a sign on his back. It says someone up higher said that someone else put it there. Either way, the fact that it has to be said at all is what bothers me. Like, where did all the common decency and common courtesy go? Am I that different? Was I raised that differently? I just don't think so. I was raised in the same society as everyone else. So where did it go? Where is this mass culting coming from? Right. Put on a facade that I like, so I'll hire you, please. I'm going to ask you these questions. Please answer them correctly so I can hire you. I'm telling y'all, that's what I'm going to hit them with. Why did you leave your last job? Well, I have a very rich, abundant, and interesting life outside of work, and that seems to clash with a lot of employers. Do you think that's going to clash with you? You guys, going back to the lawyer thing really quick, I was just thinking about it. I feel like I wouldn't get to go to trial very often because I feel like after like 5 minutes with me, they're just going to be like, just forget it. Just give them what they want. Yeah, we'll sign. I'm like, you don't want to go to trial? No, you and all your questions and we'll sign. I'm like, well, you don't have to sign. We can actually go to trial and do. No, just give us the papers. We'll sign. Okay. You all never let me have any fun. You never let me go to trial. Why not? Why don't you want to face me in trial? Why? Fine, sign. Cut the check. You can give it to my secretary, and thank you so much for doing business. Oh, God. Let's see here. All right, we're going to wrap this up here pretty soon. Thank you all so much for hanging out, and thank you for all my super chatters. I appreciate you. All right. All right, you guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. As always, I am going to go back through a little bit later on and rewatch the whole show and read all the comments. So it's been a blast. We have a couple more chapters left in this book and we will be all done. Let's see what they actually are. So chapter 11 is, is it my personality or just bad timing? And then the final chapter in the book is how to avoid a corporate cult next time. So those are our last two chapters. Hopefully we will finish this by like August, but I intend to be done by like the end of next month, July, which is right around the corner. So thank you all so much for hanging out with me. I appreciate it. If you are on Twitter, I am on Twitter at Exist Permission. But it's been fun. I enjoyed the show. I hope you guys did too. Thank you so much. Take care, and we will talk again very soon. Bye.